It begins with a sparkling ripple, like a wave, creeping up the shoreline, growing from the bottom up, spreading like liquid across the sails, rippling and surging, the consistency of lizard skin, textured in many different hues. Reptilian splendour surging up towards the tips of the sails. It flexes and shimmers, it fills and fills the sails like liquid in a glass, gradually reaching the top of the sails, pulsing with colour. That metallic sound is the first appearance of a rope, restricting the skin, thrown over, a binding lashing it down. Another rope binding appears, closer to the city. On our far right, more ropes appear on the big sail to our left. Rope-like ties appear and wrap onto the central sail, lashing it down. The thin skin breathes as the creature heaves and writhes under it like fingers caressing under silk, bulging in unexpected places, unpredictable rolling movements as it struggles under its bonds. And then from the left, the coloured skin tears from the tips of the sails, breaking open like a present. Large swathes of the image fall away to reveal worm-like tentacles, earthworm-esque in their spaghettiness, reaching and finding, slowly stretching. There are multiples, writhing, growing, suggestive of coral. Behind these pink, bent-over tentacles that could reach all the way up to the tips of the sails but flop forward. The sails are a greenish blue. The whole picture before us seems to pulse with internal lighting. It flashes. The tentacles are growing in size, thickening and growing up, encasing the whole of the silhouette of the sails in their slow-moving, inquisitive tableau. Pulses of colour. Over the centre sail, a cocoon grows, meshing its web-like texture to completely obscure the tentacles, creating a hard chrysalis, a deep opaque red and purple. Another chrysalis forms to the right, on the closest, smaller sail, and then, on our left, all three of the large sails are rendered encased, fruit-like. Until this effect too peels back like paper, curling away to reveal organic textures and colours, assorted strips emerging that resemble the differing patterns of multiple butterfly wings, like pieces of paper one on top of the other, underwater. Many different strips of patterns are a garden of parts of butterfly wings, billowing and bending in an underwater current. Finely textured detail that swims in a breeze. And then a pustule erupts on the centre sail, a mushrooming blister that destroys the pattern. Soon scores of spores surround it. First darkness takes the butterfly pattern and then pustules grow over the surface. Packed in like fungi, they nudge up against one another, creating a carpet of bubbles. Another large mushrooming bubble grows on a sail to our right, and it's quickly surrounded by a crop of smaller ones. They fill the sails in more pleasant colours now, rich blues and lolly-coloured yellows and reds like cake dressing. Spores grow on the larger bubble pustules. They too undulate, a breathing, rippling mass that's changing to a yellowish green. A transition is starting. Hard curved shells with tiger stripes twist on and encase each sail. They seem to grow into position by the manoeuvring of a fleshy tongue-like underbelly, leading the shell onto the shape and then twisting to encase it in bright, brindle hues. In the foreground, a whole new shell shape joins in, nestling into the sail configuration, much more curved like a snail shell. The newest curve splinters open, and a grey squid creature sits on a pile of blue-black eggs, many eggs. Around it, those hard shells splinter and fragment. Inside are black and pink stripes, and they're throbbing, breathing. One after another, the sails crack and fracture in a reveal. The squid is throbbing too, expanding and contracting atop its eggs. And then squid eggs fill up the shape of the sails like rising water, hundreds of grey eggs like beanbag beans, effervescing to the top, all the way up, and then they seem to just fade away. The squid is gone, the sails are ice blue, and on each is a flower-like object with a hole collared with a dark pink feathery spray and with an empty centre that opens and closes. In the middle of the image, as though made out of plasticine, is a pock-marked ball through which long pastel tentacles writhe out, swimming and changing. Everything's in flux, a constant sense of movement. Those fringed holes are changing in diameter. Tentacles float and sway. A shot of pink pollen swims from right to left out of the plasticine ball. And then one tentacle grows up and around in a loop, searching for entry to a hole. And then it shrinks back down. More pollen shoots. And the tentacle disappears. Like armour, metallic, glistening red and green casing appears from the bottom, rising up, sleekly sliding into place over all of the sails in precise segments, clean, glossy lines building into colossal metallic shapes. Two very large tubes break out from our left, stretching horizontally to the centre, jelly-like, see-through, a shiny exterior. And down these tubes zap currents of colour from left to centre, building in intensity, and above them on our left, those two sails are capped in green. These, like the sleek insect-like segments on the right of the main sail, pulse to the beat, throbbing. To our right they pulse in cherry red. The tableau of metallic segments and sections crackles with colour, breathing, in part like an insect, and repeating robotic, rhythmic movements. Faster and faster, crackling with colour. And the image starts to break apart, mirror shards that splinter and fall away. In the centre of the tallest sail, a core appears, a spinning gold bolt-like object. It draws everything around it into orbit, breaking up the image, sucking small segments into the centre. A vortex. Once all the metallic shards have been sucked into the golden eye of the machine, the image is much changed. All the sails wear a predominantly orange, detailed, hexagonal pattern extending to the extremities, and they have a frond-like quality, bending the image towards the cylindrical centre. The surface appears to ripple in shock waves into and away from the spinning core. At the centre, hexagons stretch into fingers, undulating, repeating a pattern. And then an intricate hexagonal pattern has closed over the core. There's a mark left in the centre of the largest sail, a pinprick. from which all of the other hexagons orbit. They're tiny, tiny now, plentiful on the sail canvas. Something's growing, blossoming. Is it a tree root? A stick of ginger? Gnarled, swelling, organic. It's joined by two more. Behind them, a bed of dappled reddish brown, and at the top of the central sail a smattering of fresh blue shoots. The image changes colour. Now it starts to resemble organs, connecting and growing, spreading onto the sails to our right, all around until the whole sail tableau is populated, a curious garden, changing to vibrant green. And then darkens and fades, and then brighter and brighter yellows and peaches. Darkness draws over them, closing down on the image, except for those two large bulbs at the centre. These morph into huge droplets, and inside the droplet a pink organism, a bell-shaped jellyfish facing towards one another, and out from its rear a spray of tentacles spills. And inside the droplets, now so large they take up two whole sails, a stem grows that reaches up to kiss the inside of the droplet chamber. Each fleshy kiss is drawn through the belly of the jelly, and once connected, sends shockwaves of light inside the droplet. Spidery tendons grow out from the kiss site and pulse with light. In an explosion of pink tadpoles of light, all of this disappears. Pink tentacles dart to and fro, crisscrossing in the darkness. Replaced suddenly from left to right by colourful cylindrical organic segments, rolled into tight curved formations. Each sail has one. Millipede coils, inspired by the internal opera house architecture in unnaturally bright colours, splashes of blue and orange. 5 dark circles rimmed with yellow in a row up the vertical leading edge of each sail, like the top joint of 5 fingers with a nail. From the centre of the image, 2 wooden towers grow, protruding skyward, Eiffel-esque on a lean. The segments in each coil appear to be multiplying from an unseen source. As they move in a semicircle, endlessly coiling segments replacing one another. On each, those 5 fingernail-like circles flicker, first with one colour, and then another. Between the coils, at the lowest central point of the tableau, a different shape is rising, riding low, twisting, a slow-moving, rubbery, spinning head, a turbine, facing the city and growing. Soon, it's joined by another one, low down on the far left, a rotating core bedecked in row upon row of patterns, all with soft, rounded edges, so they could be tentacles. It grows out and along to the right. Above it, coming out of the spinning head on the central sail, a long purple and pink ribbed thick stem stretches up, all 22 stories, and behind it a spray of writhing, flickering weed-like tentacles. Before long, 5 undulating, rotating tentacle spools are taking up more and more space on the sails. They twist on and shadows form. It's lit as though moonlight passes through from above. Rows of growths of every imaginable kind, stubby, finger-like fronds, corrugated, rubbery fronds, turning. Light flickers and throbs through these spiralling pink and purple spools as they rotate. Here and there, waves of light course up and out, a profusion of sea-like movements, anemone fronds, soft coral, churning and undulating and lit as though nighttime underwater, mesmeric. And then a reptilian skin begins to form from the ground up in a rising tide with a shimmering edge, up, over the writhing shapes, covering their movement. Iridescent, scaly skin that catches and shifts the light, shimmying up over the tentacle spools, obscuring them like water filling a glass. A shift in the soundscape. A metallic sound, the first appearance of a rope, a restraint of some sort, thrown across that skin fabric, a binding lashing it down. Underneath, the creature writhes and writhes. And so the tableau begins anew.